Have you ever caught yourself thinking, I already messed up, so I might as well keep eating? Or maybe you've told yourself you'll be good until the weekend and then start fresh on Monday? Today, we're exploring one of the most powerful patterns that keeps people stuck in cycles of binging and restriction. And we're going to talk about how to begin shifting out of this pattern. Welcome to Binge Eating Breakthrough, the podcast to help you stop feeling out of control around food and build trust with your body. If you've tried everything but still feel stuck, you're not alone. I've been there too. I'm Jane Pilger, and I'm here to help you see binge eating in a new way so you can finally break free. Each week, you'll get the tools and insights to create peace with food and your body. Your breakthrough starts now. Hello, trusted listener. I consider you a trusted listener because I trust that you're here seeking understanding, not perfection. I trust that you recognize that the goal isn't to never think in extremes again, but to develop awareness of when it's happening and have tools to respond differently. That kind of nuanced thinking is exactly what we're exploring today. Today, we're talking about black and white thinking, also called all or nothing thinking, and how it perpetuates binge eating or these cycles of feeling like you're out of control with food. This is one of those patterns that once you see it, you start noticing it everywhere. And that awareness alone can begin to shift your relationship with food in profound ways. Black and white thinking is when we see things in extremes with no middle ground. It's the mental framework of always or never, perfect or failure, good or bad. And when it comes to food and eating, it sounds like this. I already ate one cookie, so I might as well eat the whole box. I'll be really good during the week, and then I can relax on the weekend. I'm either on a diet or I'm off a diet. Or I'm on a plan or I'm off plan. I ate too much at lunch, so I've already blown it for the day. Once I start eating that food, I can't stop, so I just won't have any at all. I have to get rid of all this food now. I have to get it all out of the house. Do any of those sound familiar? If so, you're not alone. Black and white thinking is incredibly common, especially among high achievers and people who struggle with binge eating, who struggle with eating more than they want, who struggle with sometimes feeling out of control with food. In fact, I would say it's one of the primary thinking patterns that keeps the binge restrict cycle alive. And let me explain why. When you think in black and white terms about food, you're essentially creating only two options for yourself: perfect or failure. You're either being good or you've blown it. And here's the thing about that framework. It doesn't leave any room for being human. Being human means sometimes eating more than you planned. Sometimes choosing foods that aren't the most nourishing. Sometimes eating when you're not physically hungry because you're at a celebration or you're stressed or the food just looked really appealing. That's not failure. That's life. But when you're operating from a black and white framework, those completely normal human experiences get interpreted as evidence that you've failed, that you've blown it, that you're off track. And once you've decided you're already off track, your brain offers up a very compelling story. Well, if I've already messed up, I might as well keep going. I'll start fresh tomorrow, or Monday, or next month, or as we're approaching the end of the year, in January. This is what I call the screw it moment. It's that split second where you go from one cookie to eating the entire box. From a reasonable dinner to continuing to eat everything in sight, even though you're uncomfortably full. From a food choice you didn't plan on making to a full-on binge. And here is what is really important to understand. That screw it moment isn't actually about the food. It's about the story your brain is telling based on black and white thinking. Your brain has decided you've already crossed over from the good side to the bad side. So there's no point in stopping now. You've already failed for the day, so you might as well get all the bad eating done now and start fresh tomorrow when you can be back on the good side. Can you see how this thinking pattern actually creates the very behavior you're trying to avoid? Let me give you a concrete example. Let's say you've decided you're not going to eat any sweets during the week. You're being really good. Then Thursday afternoon arrives and someone brings donuts to the office and you have one. And the moment you finish that donut, your brain says, well, you've already blown it. You were supposed to be good all week and you made it to Thursday, but now you've messed up. Might as well have another donut. Actually, might as well stop at the store on the way home and get your favorite ice cream. You've already ruined the week anyway. And you know what? You should probably eat all of it tonight and get it out of the house so you're not tempted tomorrow. You'll start fresh on Monday. See what happened there? One donut became permission for an entire binge. Not because of the donut itself, but because of the black and white story about what that donut meant. And that story escalates to include this urgency to get rid of all of the food, as if the only way to stop the cycle is to eat everything now. Now, let me be clear. I am not suggesting that eating one donut should lead to eating ice cream and everything else. What I'm suggesting is that the black and white thinking is what creates the chain reaction. And when you can start to recognize that pattern, you can interrupt it. So let's talk about what causes black and white thinking in the first place. Often, this thinking pattern develops as a way to create a sense of control. When life feels chaotic or overwhelming, black and white rules can feel safe. They're clear. They're simple. You know exactly what you're supposed to do. There's no ambiguity, no gray area where you have to make complex decisions or trust yourself. This is especially common for high achievers. People who have learned that following rules and doing things perfectly leads to success in other areas of life. You've probably found that being detail-oriented, having high standards, and following through on commitments has served you well in your career and other aspects of your life. But here's the thing. Food and bodies don't operate according to rigid rules. They operate in shades of gray. Your body's needs change day to day, meal to meal, even hour to hour. Let me just say that again, in case you didn't hear it. Your body's needs change day to day, meal to meal, even hour to hour. What feels nourishing one day might not feel the same the next day. How much you need to eat varies based on your activity level, your stress level, where you are in your cycle, how well you slept, and countless other factors. When you try to apply black and white rules to something as dynamic and nuanced as your body's needs, it creates constant tension. You're trying to force something fluid into rigid categories, and it simply doesn't work. Now, there's another thing that perpetuates black and white thinking, and that is diet culture. Diet culture is built on black and white thinking. Good foods and bad foods. on plan or off plan, cheat days and clean eating. All of this language reinforces the idea that there are only two ways to be with food: perfectly controlled or completely out of control. But here's the truth. There is an entire spectrum between these two extremes. And that's where actual peace with food lives. In the middle ground, in the gray area, in the space where you can make imperfect choices without it meaning anything about you or derailing everything else. So how do you start shifting out of black and white thinking? The first step, as always, is awareness. You can't change what you're not aware of. So you have to start noticing when you are thinking in extremes. I often will point this out to my clients, even if it's not food. They may give an example that's not food related, and I'll say, right there. Do you see the black and white thinking? Do you see the extremes? Do you see that you're only giving yourself two options? And usually they don't. And then they're like, you're right. There it is. So we have to see it. Awareness first. And this is what you want to listen for. Listen for the words always, never, perfect, ruined, blown it, might as well, or all or nothing. When you notice yourself using these words or thinking these thoughts, just pause and take a breath. Now here's some other words for you. Good, bad. I ate good today. Oh, I'm being so bad. Failure. I failed. These are words that are going to show you. And many people, so many people, naturally use good and bad all the time to describe their eating behaviors, what they're eating. So just start to notice. Now, you don't even have to change anything yet. Just notice. There it is. There is black and white thinking happening right now. Because that pause, that moment of awareness is where your power lives. Because once you can see it, you can start to question it. So the first step, awareness. Second step, introduce gray area thinking. This is where you challenge the black and white story that your brain is offering and look for the middle ground. When your brain says, I already ate the cookie, so I might as well keep going, you can challenge that with, or I ate the cookie and that's okay. I can stop here. One cookie doesn't mean I have to eat all of the cookies. I like to ask, how many other options are there? Instead of only giving myself two options, I ate one cookie, now I'm going to eat all of the cookies. There are so many options in between. I could have 2 cookies. I could have 3 cookies. I could have 4 cookies. I could have 27 cookies. And as soon as you actually start to realize you have a lot of choices here, it's not just one. It's not just none or all of them. There's so many choices in between. When your brain says, I've already blown it, you can challenge that with, what does blown it even mean? I ate more than I planned. I ate more than I thought I would. That's information. It doesn't mean the rest of the day is ruined. My next meal is a new opportunity. When your brain says, I'm either on a diet or off a diet, or I'm on plan or off plan, you can challenge that with, what if I'm neither? What if I'm just someone learning to listen to my body and respond to what it needs? The key here is you are not trying to convince yourself that everything is fine or that you should never have preferences about how you eat. You're simply introducing the possibility that there's a middle ground between perfection and failure. All right, I'm going to give you a framework that I find can be helpful for this. Here's the concept. Good enough. Good enough lives in the gray area. It's not perfect, but it's not failure either. It's making choices that generally support your well-being while leaving room for flexibility, pleasure, and being human. Good enough might look like eating a meal that includes vegetables and protein and also includes dessert because you wanted it. It might look like eating when you're stressed, even though you're not physically hungry, and then being curious about what you needed in that moment rather than spiraling into shame. It might look like eating more than felt comfortable at a celebration, and then simply returning to normal eating the next day without punishment or restriction or trying to make up for anything. Good enough allows for the full spectrum of human eating. And here's what's powerful about it. When you give yourself permission to be good enough, you actually remove the trigger for binging. Think about it. If eating one cookie doesn't mean that you've failed or blown it, then there's no reason to eat the whole box. If you can eat more than you planned without it meaning something terrible about you, then there's no need to punish yourself with restriction afterward. The binge-restrict cycle requires the black and white thinking to survive. And without it, the cycle loses its power. Now, I want to address something important. Shifting out of black and white thinking doesn't mean abandoning all structure or preferences. You can still prefer to eat in certain ways. You can still have foods you choose to eat more often and foods you choose to eat less often. You can still have goals for how you want to feel in your body. The difference is those preferences and goals aren't rigid rules that determine whether you are good or bad. They are flexible guidelines that you can adjust based on what you need in any given moment. And when you inevitably don't follow those guidelines, because again, you're human, you can respond with curiosity instead of judgment. Interesting. I intended to do X, but I did Y instead. I wonder what was going on for me. What did I need? What can I learn from this? That is gray area thinking. It's middle ground. That is where peace with food actually lives. I want you to think about this for yourself. If you have someone in your life who has a peaceful relationship with food, now, I fully acknowledge as you are listening, you may not. Many people do not even know anybody who has a peaceful relationship with food. But there are a lot of people who have at least one person in their life who's like, yeah, this person, they really do have a pretty peaceful relationship with food. I want you to think about them if you have this example for yourself. Do you think they live in the gray area with food? Just ask, just inquire. Even if you're just inquiring yourself, get curious about that. Because peace with food lives in the gray area. It doesn't live at the extremes. And when we live on the extremes, we put ourselves on the pendulum to swing back and forth and back and forth. Now, as we move into this holiday season, this skill is going to be especially important. The holidays are full of situations that can trigger black and white thinking. Special foods you don't usually eat, gatherings that disrupt your normal routines, family dynamics that can be stressful, social pressure around food choices. And your brain might offer up some very compelling black and white stories. The holidays are basically ruined for my eating anyway, so I'll just let loose until January. Or I need to be really careful. I really need to knuckle down, be careful, or else I'll gain weight. Both of those are black and white thinking. And both of them are likely to lead to the exact patterns you are trying to avoid. Instead, what if you approached the holidays with gray area thinking? What if you gave yourself permission to enjoy the special foods without it meaning you're off track? What if you allowed yourself to eat more than usual at celebrations without it triggering a binge? What if you could experience the full range of holiday eating, the indulgent meals, the regular meals, the times when you eat more, the times when you eat less, without it meaning something about you. This is possible. And it starts with noticing the black and white thinking and choosing to respond differently. So here's what I want you to practice this week. First, just notice when black and white thinking shows up. You don't have to change it yet. Just notice it. Notice the language. Notice the feeling in your body that often comes with it. That sense of, I've blown it, or I have to be perfect. Second, when you do notice it, see if you can introduce just a tiny bit of gray area. Even just asking yourself, is this really true? Or what's the middle ground here? Or what other options do I have? Can start to shift the pattern. And third, this is important. Practice being good enough. Practice making choices that are not perfect, but are good enough. Practice responding to yourself with gentleness when you don't do exactly what you planned. Practice noticing that one imperfect choice doesn't have to lead to a cascade of imperfect choices. Remember, your body is always listening. When you respond to yourself with kindness and flexibility instead of harsh judgment and rigid rules, your body learns that it's safe to trust you. And that self-trust is what actually allows you to show up differently with food. Black and white thinking wants you to believe that you need strict rules and perfect execution to have a healthy relationship with food. But the truth is exactly the opposite. It's the willingness to live in the gray area, to be imperfect, to be good enough that actually creates the freedom that you're looking for. So next week, we're going to talk about navigating food, family, and finding peace during the holidays, which is going to build on everything that we've explored today. So until then, practice noticing those black and white thoughts and introducing even the smallest bit of gray area, because that is where your freedom begins. I'll see you next week. If you like what you're hearing on the podcast, you will love my new book, The Binge Eating Breakthrough: Why Food Isn't the Problem and What Really Is. Discover why willpower isn't the answer, why restricting certain foods often backfires, and why understanding your brain and body is the key to lasting change. Learn to shift from shame and self-blame to curiosity and compassion. Get it today at janepilger.com/book.